You are part of this society now. Whether you like it or not, you are a civilian again. And no, that is not a bad thing. It is an evolution. The world needs you. It needs your leadership. It needs your strength. It needs your voice. But you can't lead or heal if you are hiding. You can't serve if you're drinking yourself every freaking weekend. You can't build if you're still trying to destroy yourself. There is no more line in the sand. Welcome to the VetRise Podcast. I'm your host, Juan Perez. My goal is to make success after service accessible to every veteran in society. I believe in the power of leveraging your service, not as a label that defines you, but as a launching pad for your next chapter. What we have been doing has not been working, and it's on us to start changing the culture. Enjoy the episode, and thank you for your time. Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for coming on for another episode of the VetRise Podcast. This is a special one. This episode is for the civilians that need to hear this. If you have someone in your life that served in the military and you want to understand them better, this episode is for you. Or maybe you are the veteran and you want to help someone understand you better. Share this episode with them. It could be your friends, your mom, your loved ones, your partner, your kids even. It's going to give you a chance to let them into your world a little bit. So please listen in, share this, and be willing to be a little bit vulnerable because there's nothing wrong with that. If you've ever sat across from a veteran in a room and you've thought to yourself, they're here, but they're not really here. Or maybe you've said to yourself, I just don't know how to help them anymore. This episode is for you. It's not going to be polished. It's not going to be pretty, but it will be very honest. Because there's a gap between veterans and civilians that nobody is bridging, nobody is talking about, not politicians, not the VA, not your HR department, not even most therapists. So today I want to walk you through that. I'm going to tell you the real veteran story. From the day we walk into the recruiter's office and we get kind of lied to a little bit, to the moment that we stare at our bedroom ceiling when we get out and we move back in with our parents, or maybe we move back in with a girlfriend, or maybe we stay where we're at, wondering if what we did actually even mattered. This episode is for every wife who has been trying to understand her husband and who feels like she's sleeping next to a ghost. Every son or daughter who has been trying to understand their dad and why he never talks about the military. Every boss, teacher, friend, or coach who thinks he's smart, but something's off. It's also for the veterans who've never had the words to explain what they went through. Because honestly, they don't even know where to begin. So let's start from the beginning. Why do we sign up? For me, it was 2008. Everything was going pretty bad in my life. I was in the middle of getting expelled from different high schools. I had undiagnosed ADHD. So I tried to fit in. I tried to find friends wherever I could go. Everything was just going crazy. The war was on the news every damn day. But nobody really talks about it at the dinner table anymore. It's just background noise. And I was 18, living in a house with too many people and not enough direction. And I had no idea where I was going. I got in trouble all the time. I was in fights all the time at school. My parents did not understand what I was doing because I was rebelling. I was involved in gangs. And this is my story. It doesn't mean every veteran went through this. That's not what I'm saying. But I would sit there and I would stare at the ceiling thinking, this cannot be it. What am I going to do? So I walked into the recruiter's office. And to this day, I can still hear the fake confidence in my voice when I said, I want to do something real with my life. I want to be a part of something. And see, the truth is, I didn't know who the hell I was. I just knew I didn't want to become the people around me. Some guys join because of legacy. Some join because of honor. Some, like me, join because they feel like their back is against a wall. And this is the only way out that still might earn them a little bit of respect, a little bit of meaning, a little bit of understanding of what the world is possible. And I remember the recruiter, Staff Sergeant Garcia, laying out all those values and principles in front of me and telling me which ones mean the most to you. He told me that I would make a difference in this world, and I believed him. And see, a lot of civilians think that we join because we love war, but most of us joined because we were already in a war with ourselves, with our past, with our environment. And we wanted to fight something that actually made us feel like we were making a difference, like we were in control. Joining the military was not the only thing that I could do. It was the only thing that I thought that I had in my future at the time. Joining the military was the first time I felt like I had a say in the direction of my life. Now, whether we admit it or not, there's a quiet desperation that lives in a lot of freaking 17-year-old kids who sign that dotted line. We're not always trying to be heroes. We're just trying to become someone. We're trying to find something that made sense to us. We're trying to decide what we want to do with the rest of our lives. And we don't know what it is. So that's one of the main reasons why I enlisted and why a lot of guys and gals enlist. And then we join the military and we become the military. You see, boot camp is not just basic training. It is identity demolition. They destroy everything that you are. They take your name, your hair, your style, your schedule, everything. You are no longer someone with a past or a story. You are a body that needs to be rebuilt to serve the new mission. And back in 2008, boot camp was full of guys like me, people that volunteered after 9/11. Our drill instructors were Iraq war veterans. Afghanistan was starting to heat up, and we were told straight up, you are going to war. Get your shit ready. I remember the first night lying in my rack. The lights off. We had just said goodnight to Chesty Puller. And there was a kid from freaking California who whispered, you think that we fucked up? I didn't answer. I didn't know. But the truth was, yeah, I was scared. Not just of the training, but of who I would become to make it through what I had to do for the next 3 months. However, that fear gets buried so fast because you don't have time to process it. You wake up early. You're getting freaking IT'd. You have to shower with a bunch of dudes and you have 1 minute, maybe even less to do it, all while someone is screaming in your face and telling you that you have to do this and you have to do that. And you're trying to do it as fast as you can, but you're not going to. It doesn't work that way. You are going to fail. And they want you to fail initially. But they build you back up. You learn how to move in sync with a bunch of other dudes, and you learn that you are starting to feel like you are part of something. And slowly, it starts to make sense. There was a guy in my platoon, Dominguez. He couldn't march for shit. He got IT'd and smoked every day. But the moment we were told that we had to freaking do PT, he was excited for it. He was the first one out front. He was the one that wanted to do things because he came from a much more broken background than I did. He didn't have a mom or dad. He actually had a waiver to get into the military. This was his saving grace. And when we saw how much energy he had, how much freaking love he had for the military, the Marine Corps, that was the moment that we stopped seeing him as a weak link and we started seeing him as a brother, because that's what we were all becoming. That is how boot camp works. It is indoctrination. It is learning a culture. You don't get to fake it. All of the masks come off. Your ego gets shattered. Your excuses, they die. And whatever is left of you, it starts to turn to discipline, to grit, to unity. And I want you guys to understand this. To all the civilians listening, imagine being put in a room with 80 people who don't know each other, don't like each other, and don't trust each other, then being told, if you don't work together, someone is going to die. It changes you. It changes people. It changed me. You learn how to push through being fucking tired. You learn how to make your bed when you never made your bed before, and you better make it perfectly. You learn how to suffer silently and still find a way to perform. It pushes you past what you believe is possible. And even though you miss home, you start to realize this pain, this chaos, all of this structure, this is the first real stability some of us ever had. There was a point in boot camp, I remember going up the final hill, the final evolution before we got our EGAs. And I remember feeling so invincible, like there was absolutely nothing that could stop me. And I was right. Because when you believe that, you can take on everything. The Marine Corps, the military, is in charge of creating war fighters and winning wars. And a lot of people forget that. And they get upset about it when they leave the military. I remember my rack mate, he actually went UA during boot camp. I had to make my bed in his bed for a whole month. And it was something that pissed me off. But guess what? It made me tougher. It made me better. And then once boot camp is over, You think that the hard part is over, but the truth is it is only beginning, because now you're in it. The real military, the fleet, the unit, the rotation, the machine, whatever you want to call it. And this is where everything starts to blur. This is where you start to even lose some of that mindset that you developed in boot camp, because a lot of it doesn't make sense. The days are longer. The pace is absolutely relentless. The expectations are sky high, and nobody gives a damn how tired you are. You could be in the middle of nowhere with a rifle, a radio, and a freaking pack, and that it is just loaded to the brim with a brick by brick by brick, and you feel heavy as fuck, but you are still expected to do it. Once you get to your unit, after you go through your infantry training or whatever training you go through, it gets even harder. Because now you realize that you're not really just a Marine, you are a boot. You are a new join. You are a cherry. And every time that you go out there, you have to truly try and prove yourself as much as you can. You realize that you did not get the perfect body when you were in boot camp, and now you have to still work on yourself. And all you ever hear about is how you are going to war, how you might not make it home, how there's someone back home fucking your girlfriend and his name is Jody. And you're wondering if any of this shit actually matters. You miss home, but you can't show it. You can't talk about it because you are becoming a badass. It is very much an identity crisis because you miss some of the things from your past, but you also know deep down inside that you are not going back anytime soon. So you better adapt and you better freaking do the thing. And guess what? You do adapt. Not because you want to, but because you have to. You get used to sleeping very little. You learn how to eat fast, move faster, and you think 3 steps ahead because if you don't, someone gets hurt. You develop this sixth sense for danger. You realize that your people that are in charge of you do give a shit about you. They just don't know how to show it because nobody showed it to them. And it was the best time of my life. And sometimes it was the worst times of my life. But you change. You're supposed to change. You learn to laugh at things that would horrify civilians. You find comfort and joy in discomfort and pain. You build friendship so strong that it makes losing one feel like a death in the family because it does feel that way. There was a guy in my unit who did not make it home. And I think about him a lot because for the longest I felt responsible for his death, and I was not. And he taught me so many things because I realized that now I am at the age that he was at when he passed, actually older, and I have 2 kids, and he had 2 kids at the time. And you replay these stories over and over in your head. You replay all the freaking stuff that happened in the military over and over again, and you just wonder, what did it make me into? And it's not that it's bad. And I'm not here to tell you that the military is a bad thing. I'm here to tell you that it just doesn't make sense a lot of the times. And we don't process it. And you have to learn to be tough, to be resilient, to be willing to do anything when you need to, because that is how it works in the military. But we are all trying to get ready to go to war so that we can come home. And when we are there, we are not thinking about the politics. We are not thinking about the overall mission. The mission is to do what we have to do, win the fight that we have to win, and get home. That was it. That was the mindset. And you were doing it with your best friends at that point. But there was no room for emotion, no time for weakness. It was the mission first, always. And I want to tell you something that civilians don't always understand, unfortunately. We didn't just lose people overseas. We lost people here as well after we came home. And while we were overseas, we also lost a little bit of ourselves, our innocence, our youth. Because in order to operate at that level, you have to shut certain things off. You stop processing grief. You don't show the emotions. You stop expressing fear because you get judged for it. You bury your guilt, your anxiety, your trauma under this idea of what it means to be a Marine, a soldier, an airman, whatever it is. And the dangerous part is that you get really good at it and you don't even realize. And then there comes a point when you made a decision to either stay in or get out. And the moment that you tell everyone that you are getting out, you no longer matter to the military. People do see you as a malingerer, as someone that has dropped this pack. And it's sad. It's sad because it's not even their fault. It's just that is the machine. That is what the military is all about. Breeding and creating and preparing for the next war, the next set of war fighters. So you spend your time in the military. You get your DD-214. You pack up your stuff. You turn in your shit to the armory and to SIF and to equipment. And they say, thank you. And just like that, you're out. Just like that. There's some preparation classes, but you don't take them seriously. And they don't take them seriously because you're still in the military at the time. And at first, it feels like freedom. You sleep in, you grow a beard, you freaking blast music in your car without worrying about anybody doing it or saying anything to you on base. You put your hands in your pockets. You finally get to just be. And that's the honeymoon phase. You tell yourself, I'm done with all the bullshit. I don't have to be at formation at a certain time. I get to be normal now. But what is normal? So you push the military away. You roll your eyes at guys who still say "Urrah" and "Rah." You cringe at how you used to be. You want nothing to do with that world. No one is forcing you to PT. And you try to reinvent yourself. You try college or a job, or maybe you start a business, and you're proud of your service. But you don't want to be defined by it anymore. However, that's when you isolate because you realize that you're not like everybody else. You didn't acclimate. Things get quiet, too quiet, because there's nobody here to tell you what to do. And you traded chaos for silence. And silence doesn't always care about your past. So you wake up without a reason to get out of bed. You have full days with no structure. You realize nobody gives a fuck what your rank was, your sense of purpose, the thing that carried you through the war, everything that was important to you, your buddies, everything. It just vanishes. And then the structure that you once hated, you start to miss it. You miss the uniform. You miss the guys who always had your back. You even miss the routine, the monotony, the clarity, because you knew what you were going to be doing for the most part. It's like coming home from the best party of your life and then suddenly being trapped in a room where you have no one around you. No noise, no direction, just you and the weight of everything that you have not processed because you were never told that you were going to have to process it. And this is where the breakdown happens. Because now you are out of the military. Because you're not in anything. You are in limbo. The honeymoon phase fades so fast. And now you are left alone with your thoughts, with emotions that you don't have tools for, that you don't know how to cope with them. You don't know what to do with them, with people around you who love you, but they don't understand you. And that's when the second culture shock hits. Because back in boot camp, you were surrounded by guys going through the same shit, but now you are alone in a Target on a Tuesday, freaking out because there is way too many people there and you don't know what type of milk or cereal to buy. And people always wonder why you act weird. Because you don't know how to balance your checkbook, because you don't know what type of apartment you should be getting. You don't know if you should get married or not, if you should be doing this or not, what type of job you should get. Nobody sees the war that's playing out in your head. Nobody notices the hypervigilance. Nobody notices the hypervigilance, the detachment that you feel from the world, the guilt, the grief. They just think he's home. He should be happy. And that is what breaks so many of us. I remember being in college one day, trying to do something with my life, and this girl fell asleep in the classroom. And I went up to her and I told her that if she was going to fall asleep, she had to stand up in the back of the room. And she left crying. And I thought I did the right thing. My professor pulls me aside and tells me, "Were you in the military?" And I say yes, with a bunch of pride. And he tells me, "You can't treat people that way anymore." And it hit me. It hit me, and I realized that now I am in a world that is nothing like the world that I used to be in, and I better fucking do something about this, and I better do something quick. However, the problem here happens that we do the wrong thing. We try to find more veterans to hang out with. We try and find people that do understand this. We push away our family. We don't want to be around anybody that doesn't understand what we are going through. And instead of doing the therapy and going to the VA and trying to work on our ego, instead of doing those things, we cut people off. We drink like we were still in. And we start to hate society, even though we are a part of society. But the problem is that we've never been a part of society before. We don't know what it's like to be here. This is different. And nobody tells you how different it's going to be. So, what happens to the veteran when you finally hit that rock bottom? When the drinking, the isolation, the anger, the resentment, all of the tools that kept you alive in the military are not working anymore. You have two choices. You can either stay here or you can keep rebuilding. And for me, rebuilding didn't start with the motivational video. It started with silence. It started with the fact that I went through 2 divorces. I gave everything I had to the new career field that I had started in as a police officer because it made sense to me and I loved it. I do love it, but it's the only thing that I thought I could do because I was good at it. It starts with veterans thinking that they don't need to be in this world anymore. And everybody loves to tell you that veteran suicide is the number one veteran issue. I disagree, and here's why. I believe the number one veteran issue is identity, and then mission, and then lack of purpose and lack of just drive for anything in the world because nothing made sense to you. And then you get to the place where you isolate and you push people away. And then you feel like no one will ever understand you. And that, in my opinion, is what leads to veteran suicide. It doesn't start there. It gets there. It gets there. And I remember going through all these problems and pushing so many people away and feeling like no one would ever understand me. And I would rather be misunderstood and hated by some people. And no matter what I did, I could not find that purpose in my life. And I would stare at the wall full of all these medals and ribbons and my uniform and all the police stuff that I have. And I realized that none of it made me feel alive anymore. It started when I admitted that despite the uniform, the medals, the undercover stuff that I was doing, I was losing the war inside my own head. Because here's the brutal truth, guys. No one was coming to save me. Not my sergeant, not my captain, not the VA, not the brothers in arms that I used to have that I deployed with to Afghanistan because they didn't know. I wouldn't talk about it. It was me. It was always going to be me. And I realized something. If I could survive Afghanistan, if I could survive losing my marriage, my career, my sense of self, then I sure as hell could survive rebuilding my life. But it wasn't going to happen by accident. I had to put the work in. It was going to take work that nobody was going to clap for, work that nobody would see, work that would feel slow, frustrating, and thankless, work that I didn't know how to do. So the first thing that I had to do was rebuild structure. Not because I loved waking up early, not because I had somebody yelling at me, telling me what to do, but because I knew deep down that structure saved my life before, and it would save it again. So I started small. I started waking up at the same time every day, no matter what. I started training again. I started tracking everything. I started scheduling my days. I started making sure that I was showing up for myself. I wasn't motivated. I was desperate for change. And for any veteran listening to this right now, discipline over motivation will save your life. Discipline over emotion will rebuild your future. And devotion is how you get there. Devotion. Find a new why. I had to accept a truth that freaking destroyed me. I was no longer a Marine. I no longer had that title. And people can tell you till they're blue in the face, once a Marine, always a Marine, but you are out now. You are out. Use the things that benefited you from the military. Keep those skills, those tools, but you have to realize that there is a lot of baggage from the military that doesn't benefit you anymore. Even your leadership style has to change. Even your leadership style. And yeah, sure, once a Marine, always a Marine, right? Ura semper fi, all that. But day to day, I was a civilian now, whether I liked it or not. And at first, that felt like betrayal. Like I was abandoning my people, like I was quitting. But the reality was, the uniform didn't define me. It was the discipline. It was the things I did, the courage I had, the resilience I built. I didn't need a rifle in my hand fighting in a different country to be a warrior. I needed to actually lead myself first and take care of myself, and I wasn't doing that. So I stopped trying to live in the past. I stopped trying to prove I was still one of the guys, and I started asking myself, what does it look like if I actually want to live a life worth living for myself? It looked like me being present for my beautiful daughter and my beautiful son. It looked like me deciding to leave the police department because it no longer aligned with me and starting VetRise Academy with the last savings that I had in my bank account. Not because I knew it would work, but because I refused to quit on my own mission and I knew that it had to work. It looked like me facing my PTSD without trying to drown it with alcohol. Facing my divorces without blaming everybody else. Facing myself in the mirror every goddamn day and refusing to lie about what I saw. And one of the hardest pills to swallow out of all of this is that not everyone from your past can come with you. Some people only knew me as the Marine, as the bitter cop. Some only knew me as someone that was always bitter about war and wouldn't shut up about it. I had to let them go. I had to let myself go. I had to build a new community, a tribe that was focused on growth, not gossip. People that held me accountable, not a hostage. And that's why I built what I built. That's why VetRise Academy is not just a coaching program. It is a lifeline for change, and it will help you hold yourself accountable. Because healing does not happen in isolation. The lone wolf dies. It happens in community. But it happens in the right community. And after the uniform, you have to find a mission that is bigger than your ego. You have to control it. And mine became very crystal clear. I needed to change the veteran culture, and I needed to show them that they are more powerful than they think, because too many veterans have a victim mentality because of the fact that they did something amazing when they were younger, and now they can't do something. And it eats at them. But it's not their fault, but it is their responsibility. Nobody told them how hard it was going to be. Nobody told them that they were going to face these things. Nobody told them the types of things that they were going to have to learn when they were out here. I knew the world wasn't going to hand me respect. I had to earn it again. But this time it was for me. Not with war stories, not with my title, but with me, leading myself with discipline. And I had to start thinking about the world as if it did not owe me anything, and I had to get it for myself. And I had to start living in a way that made me see the world in a better place, because it is a good place. The world is what you make it. So to the civilians listening, we do not want your pity. We don't want you to just thank us for our service. We want you to try and understand and try and listen and see us fully and understand that we went through something that was very hard and we got good at it. That's why we use the dark humor. That's why we refuse to ask for help. That's why we try and do everything that we can to volunteer for everything, because it makes us feel useful. And I want you guys to see us fully, not as broken humans, not as tough guys, but as complex human beings trying to rebuild in a world that often feels so foreign. I want you to understand that we may not show emotions the way you expect. I want you to understand that silence is not rejection. It is our survival instinct. It is what we know. I want you to understand that patience, trust, and real conversations, not lectures, not assumptions, not thank you for your service platitudes, are what heal the gap. We have to have these conversations. Invite us into your world. But don't expect us to be who we were before the service. We can't go back, and we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Because honestly, neither should you want us to. Because when you get a veteran who's done the work, you get the most loyal, driven, selfless person you will ever meet, who can accomplish anything. I really believe that. Truly. And to my fellow veterans, you are part of this society now. Whether you like it or not, you are a civilian again, and know That is not a bad thing. It is an evolution. The world needs you. It needs your leadership. It needs your strength. It needs your voice. But you can't lead or heal if you are hiding. You can't serve if you're drinking yourself every freaking weekend. You can't build if you're still trying to destroy yourself. There is no more line in the sand. There's no us versus them. It is we now. We live here. We work here. We raise our kids here. We rebuild our lives here. So the mission from this day forward has to be this simple. Stop surviving your past. Start building your future and show this world what you are made of. You are not done. You are just getting started. Lead yourself first. The rest will follow. And I wanted to have this conversation with you because I know it's hard. I know you get misunderstood. I know that you feel alone. But I want you to think about the people that love you, that are trying their very best to understand you. And it's not easy. And it's not easy, not because it's your fault or their fault, but because you were in a different culture, different place, different environment for a long time. And now you are trying to acclimate to an environment that you are not used to. You need to learn it. You need to adapt. You need to treat it like the new mission that it is. This is how you do well in society. It is not about just surviving. It is about thriving. It is about using the tools that the military did give you that do benefit you and letting go of the stuff that is holding you back. Stop trying to hold people to a standard that isn't yours or theirs. It was the military's. And to the civilians listening, if you have someone in your life that is a veteran that served, give them space, but give them love. Let them know that they can come to you. Don't lecture them. It is a process, and the process can be a reset if they start doing the right things for themselves. They have to organize their life. They have to lead themselves. They have to stop waiting for someone to come and tell them what to do. It doesn't work that way anymore. They have to put themselves in the room with the right people and know that is not just veterans. They have to make sure that they are a sponge and that they're controlling their ego and that they can show up for new adventures, new events, new things in their life with the same energy they showed up before in their life. It's not easy, but I believe that if we have these conversations more often and if we learn from each other, we can all do better because it is not us versus them. We are part of society, guys. You have to understand that. Because if you don't, it will get harder and harder and harder. And eventually you will be in a place where you feel like you are alone and nobody gets you. And then you make that bad and final decision that you cannot take back. And we all have way too many friends that have done that. So when we talk shit about other veterans trying to seek help, when we don't support the veterans that are getting the help, when we don't get the help, other veterans won't either. So be willing to speak up. Be willing to be a sponge in this world. Be willing to put yourself out there, do the uncomfortable thing, and start changing your life for the better. Start with small steps, but you have to move faster eventually. You are not behind. You are exactly where you are supposed to be because you were in a different environment and now you are here, which means that you can pass everybody up if you just start doing the right things. Don't treat the world as if they are your enemy. Nobody is against you. You are not a victim. You have the tools. You just have to use them. You have to learn how to adapt and how to start changing. And I say this because I made every mistake possible. Every mistake possible. But I wouldn't change a thing because now I work twice as hard to make sure I never end up back there. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening in. I recommend that you share this with someone that needs to hear this. Someone that doesn't know what it's like. Someone that needs to know what it's like. And maybe that's a veteran. Maybe that's a civilian. Maybe that's a friend. Share this, please. The world is not as bad as everybody makes it out to be. And just because you lost your brotherhood or your sisterhood doesn't mean you can't find it somewhere else. Doesn't mean that you can't do the right things for your life to make sure that you find that new purpose, that new mission, that new devotion, so you get that discipline. And just know that you are loved and you have to love yourself. You have to. Sometimes change starts from a place of anger because we are unhappy with where we are at, but it has to change. It cannot always be from there. So again, thank you. I appreciate your time. And just remember, your life can get better if you start doing the things that you know will benefit you. Day by day, action by action, you can change the outcome of your life. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the VetRise podcast. If today's episode inspired you, made you think, or simply gave you hope, I have a small favor to ask. Share it with just one veteran or someone you think could benefit from my message. Your share could light a spark for them. You don't know who you might save. For more insights and to join our mission, follow my socials at JP the Veteran Coach and explore how we can rise together. Thank you for joining us, for being part of this journey, and for believing in the power of rising together. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep rising, and never forget that we are stronger together. My name is Juan Perez, and thank you for your time.